I'm gonna start. So welcome to We Black Y'all. We're your hosts. It's Aldous Hodge, and I'm Phillip Boutte Jr., and we are 2/3 of the founding members of the 9B Collective Studio. Yes. Our other partner is Michael Awandi, who is always ashy and not here, so he will be here shortly. I have to get my roast into the opening monologue. He got me on the last panel, so I had to get him back on. Thank you guys for joining us. I want to go ahead and just have all of our panelists introduce themselves so that our audience knows how awesome you guys are. So I'm going to start actually with, on my screen, I have Brie.
No! Okay. Hi. My name is Brie Henderson. I am a costume designer in animation, and sometimes I'm also a character designer. I currently work at Netflix Animation, and I also work at Marvel, both as costume design. I've worked on Spider-Verse as a costume designer, and I've worked with Peter as like, am I slow? I gotta slow down. Am I giving too much?
I'm celebrating you.
I work in animation.
Thank you, Brie. Yeah. Next we have Bimpe.
Oh, hello everyone, I'm Bimpe Alliu. I'm a concept artist at Industrial Light and Magic in London. It is now officially Saturday. It's after midnight, which is why I'm like shrouded in semi-darkness. So sorry if suddenly like just descends into like darkness or whatever. But yeah, it's like it's tomorrow now. But yeah, so I work at ILM in London, and I've worked on things like Aladdin, Artemis Fowl, The Eternals, and most recently WandaVision.
Woo!
Wonderful.
Yes.
Excellent. And now I got Mr. West, Mr. Marlon West.
Yes.
I'm Marlon West. I work at Walt Disney Animation Studios. I've been head of effects on both Frozen, Moana, going back to Atlantis, and start off there on The Lion King, the original, or I like to call it. And most recently, I'm currently working as visual effects supervisor of Awaju for Disney Plus.
Yes.
Very good. And now we got Mr. Everett Downing Jr.
Hello, Everett Downing Jr. I've been an animator, story artist for a really long time. Worked at like Pixar, Blue Sky Studios, Sony, on tons of movies. And currently, I'm over at Netflix Animation Studios, and I'm EPing and show running a show called My Dad Bounty Hunter. It'll be coming out next year.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Too far.
And then we have Kristin Garland.
Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Chrystin, and I am a visual development artist working in television animation. I'm currently at Netflix right now with Everett Downing, working on My Dad the Bounty Hunter. Previous shows that I've worked on are She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, The Midnight Gospel, and Nico and the Sword of Light. I'm also a schoolism instructor, so if you are interested in learning about visual development, then you can take my class. There's actually going to be a code this weekend, LBX 21, and you get a percentage off. So definitely check that out if you're interested.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And I just saw we have Abelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abel Hayford. I'm a color designer at Netflix currently. I'm also an illustrator and comic artist. I'm recently coming out with a book called Who Sparked the Montgomery Book Bus Boycott, which is basically a biography book about Rosa Parks. And I'm also the head organizer of John Wall Black, a viral hashtag that promotes Black artists around the world. Nice to meet everyone.
Excellent.
Hey,
nice. And we just got to join. We got DJ. So DJ, introduce yourself and tell the people what you've worked on and stuff like that.
Yes.
Everyone, I've been a concept artist in the industry for over 10 years now. Started off on Adventure Time and Fire Breather, then went on to work on a bunch of video games and at Lucasfilm on Star Wars Rebels, and I also have my own projects like my YouTube channel, and just started my own company. Going to be doing some cool stuff there too.
Excellent. And I think that's our panel. We're not introducing anyone else. No one else is here.
Wow.
Wow, the shade.
Wow.
The shade.
So subtle.
And we have Peter Ramsey.
Wow.
Hey everybody, Peter Ramsey here. I was a live action storyboard artist for a long time, working on a variety of things, and then transitioned over into animation and directed the feature Rise of the Guardians for DreamWorks Animation. And a couple of years after that, one of the directors on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And now I am working on a project at Netflix called Lost Ollie. It's a hybrid, sort of hybrid miniseries. Working on a couple other things, and yeah, that's where I am. Nice to be here.
Thank you guys all for joining us. As you can see, our panel is pretty amazing, and their accomplishments speak for themselves. Al, kick us off.
All right, kick us off. What's happening, my people? So I would say, let me jump in here. First question up. I wanted to know what changes you guys have noticed within the industry that are gearing towards positive growth within the Black professional artistic community.
You know what? I've been around long enough. I'm going to say this.
Yeah, absolutely.
This did not exist like when I first got into the industry, or like well into when I was in the industry. It definitely didn't exist when I first got into animation, and that's like years ago. So there's to my eyes, there's definitely been a sea change, and I think I kind of feel it evolving as it's moving forward. So it doesn't feel like it's just a cosmetic change or a change that's only going to a certain level, you know, because I see it in the executive ranks as well, which is where it really needs to happen. So I don't know if that's your guys' experience, but that's definitely the way I'm feeling it.
Yeah, anybody else have anything to add?
I would definitely echo that. You know, you could fit all the Black people in animation and, you know, into the trunk of my car.
Wow.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration.
A little bit. Not that much.
It's like we all called go to work.
There's that many of us here. And every time I jump on something like this, like through Phillip, I'm meeting more beautiful and younger people doing their own things, not just in the room. Like I've been like in a big studio, but just making their own studios, doing their own stuff. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Nice.
Yeah, I can definitely add to that as well. Like just, you know, the project I've been seeing that are going into development now, like people are actually asking and actually being serious about like, hey, we're looking for, you know, shows run by Black creators, created by Black creators. Like, you know, we still have a ways to go, I think, but just the fact that we can have like serious conversations is great. Just the fact that like even, you know, my show exists and I wasn't a big name when they picked me up, you know, so the fact that they're willing to take some risks is pretty encouraging.
Yeah, just to echo what everybody else has said, like especially in visual effects, I was on a panel like last year and it was all people of color, majority Black, and we were like, we didn't even know, like we were all here. We thought we were the only ones like in this space. We were like, oh my God, there's more of us. There's like 8 of us. What is going on? But like it's been like as well as Peter said, like just even having these conversations, even having these kinds of panels, and also I think it's been so good in terms of like connecting so many of us as well, because before when people be like, okay, well, do you know any other kind of people of color or Black people that's like a character designer? It's like it was just so difficult to kind of even, I was like, I'm not really connected to anyone, and now it's just opened up so much, and it's just like, okay, well now there's like these people you need to be checking out, these people you need to be checking out, and just being able to support each other in that way as well, and like keep each other kind of moving and motivated and giving each other opportunities as well, which has just been amazing.
The visualization of seeing everybody together too is pretty incredible. And I think also too, just like that feeling that you were talking about being isolated is something that we all feel until we realize that we're not. Where you're like, oh, we're all out here. I remember the first time I met Chrystin, I was at Lightbox physically, and I walked past their table. I like walked past, and I walked back like, like so excited. And in
like,
all honesty,
yeah, you're like, hey, girl, want to be on a panel?
yeah, like you want to be on a panel? Like, you want to be on a panel?
That's how we met.
That's actually how I met Peter too. I met Peter and Eric at DreamWorks because I was going to the like free. I was like so excited about free food, and I was like, "There's black people." I was like so excited. And I was like so excited. So yeah, I think that that's definitely something to continue, but I think we have to recognize that in that feeling of being isolated, we're actually not, we just are spread out, which is something that ultimately when we started our company, that was something that we wanted to unify and actually bring people together. I have a question, which is, what are some of the most immediate industry-wide challenges that need to still be addressed to continue expanding positive growth? So like things that you feel like aren't immediate, like Peter had also named just right away, like the executive level, like what are some things that you guys feel need to continue, like change in order to keep that growth moving forward?
Ooh, I have an answer for that. I think it really comes down to like higher ups owning, holding themselves accountable for things that they say, and not just saying it, but actually doing it. And sometimes not even saying it, but just doing it. It's gotten to a head, I think. I've seen it's like we've got people who are saying we're going to do this. We want to amplify Black voices. We want to amplify voices of color. We want to amplify queer voices, this, that, and the other thing. And then everything just continues to move at its slow ass fucking pace that it's always have. And it's just like, this is not getting us anywhere. And so it really is holding people accountable, calling people out, and not being afraid to call people out. Because sometimes people just don't know that they're moving like a bit of a snail, and it's not that hard to not move like a snail. Sorry, I always get really fired up, but yeah.
You're supposed to be fired up.
You're supposed to be fired up. I think that's one of the key things that we've talked about in some of our other panels too, is that we've very much so started to realize that it is time for awkwardness. That's what we've learned even within this last year or so, is that if it's awkward, oh well, we have to have the conversation.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Like, if something comes up in a meeting, you need to say something. If something's awkward, you need to say something.
If you feel awkward, imagine how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. I think the point is, like, we've been walking, a lot of us have been walking on eggshells for so long as well.
Absolutely.
And constantly feeling awkward, like having to constantly carry that around. And so for people to kind of be like, oh, well, it's awkward conversation. Like, as you just said, Brie, like, well, how do you think that we've been feeling for so long? Like, we've kind of gotten used to that. So
it was uncomfortable for 2 seconds. I done been
right.
Been uncomfortable for 5 whole years. You got the nerve to be uncomfortable.
There you go. Sit there and smile and nod and say, yes, you're right. Okay.
Exactly.
Just to dovetail off what you're saying, Brie, like there is that little bit of that backslide that we got to kind of work, like keep our eye out for, you know what I mean? And I think part of that has to deal with, like, I think it's important, there's certain fatigue that can happen with certain executives and stuff like that, where you feel like, oh, this is so hard to do. And a lot of it's hard because it's like, you got to kind of get out of your comfort zone. Yes. You're going to have to like make sacrifices and make hard decisions. And another thing you got to do is support these people that you're trying to promote. So, for example, it's like, oh, you know what? We're looking for black animation directors. Oh, there's not a lot, but we have some people who are ready. So if you're going to promote them up, you got to support them. In fact, you're invested in their success. If you really want to like do what you say you want to do, you got to back them up. So that's,
it becomes a mentorship in a very nice way when you've got a new artist or a new creator or a new director or new whatever coming into the industry. It's so important that I think that they find someone or someones who will nurture them and take the time. It's not a risk. It's literally just helping to build them up so that they can be so successful, and you can ride their coattails and you can be like, yeah, I did that.
But even in fact, it's interesting that you kind of use the, like, I've had a lot of people kind of say like risk, like we're taking a risk, like by kind of hiring people that are like this, that, and the other. Like, it should, why are we considered risk? It should never be considered a risk.
Exactly.
That we get even considered a risk. And again, just to kind of pull on what you guys have said already, and you've spoken about it as well, Phil, about, again, supporting people, setting them up for success. So when you are putting people in these positions, people of color in these positions, Black people in these positions, you're not using it as an excuse to kind of wait for somebody to fail. Like, they have the proper support, whether that's mentorship, whether that's training in some shape or form, because like, it's at the end of the day, you're all creating a project together. It's about everybody winning. It's about everybody succeeding. So you need to make sure that everybody's adequately supported as well.
Yeah. And to go on that point too, I wish that like there was more room to also make mistakes, because I think especially like right now, things are so high paced, like productions are like going faster and faster. It feels like you can't really have any room for mistakes. And I think like one frustrating things, like there seems like a hesitation of hiring like green artists, especially like green Black artists, because it's like they don't have experience, but it's like how can they not have experience if you don't give them an experience, you know? So it's like very important to have like these spaces where Black artists can grow and actually be intertwined in the system and understand what it's like to be working in the industry. And also like if they fail, make a mistake, don't make it like the one big thing. Like everyone should be able to make mistakes. That's how you're able to grow in this industry, you know.
You know what the problem is with that too? It's when someone else makes a mistake, and I'm going to be very candid, when a white director makes a mistake on a production, or when a white production goes down, that, in my opinion, makes it so much harder for us as young, Black artists, or as young Black directors, or this or that other thing, to reach sort of that pedestal. It's almost like the bar just gets higher and higher and higher. Like every time they fail, we get the brunt of it, and then no one wants to, work with us.
Do you think so? I'm just curious, because it's been a long time since I was a newcomer to anything. So I'm just curious about whether that perception and that pressure really feels real for like.
I feel that pressure.
Oh yeah, I definitely.
Yeah, I feel that pressure so hard. Kristin, you and I talk about this all the time. I would love to hear your thoughts about this.
Oh gosh, it's the traps of Black exceptionalism, right? Like whenever we're in, if we're to be honest, like whenever we're in these spaces, we are in the minority, and so more eyes are focused on us, because we also have to acknowledge that even though we shouldn't be framed as a risk, we absolutely are. So we need to come in. I mean, how many of you have been told like you have to work twice as hard to get half?
Yeah.
We lived it.
Right? Like, it's ingrained in us to be better. It's ingrained in us to not have to make mistakes, because that is, it is a direct reflection and result of consequences. And I have been in the room where people have told me, like, you've got to get it done right the first time. You can't make mistakes. And that lit a fire under my butt to not do that anymore. Was it incredibly stressful? Absolutely. But yeah, if you are lucky, you will be in a production where people will invest in you and make you grow, but that is not true across the board.
Yeah, like I've been in.
Go ahead. No, please, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, I've only been in the industry for 5 years, and I'm from London as well. Like, and the part of London that I grew up in is like insanely multicultural. The school that I went to is insanely multicultural. Like, Black people everywhere. And so walking into the industry, it was it just looked completely different. And I was one of only 2 Black people at the time when I walked through the door, and that other Black person left. And so I was hyper aware from the moment that I stepped foot in the company. Out of about 300 people, I was hyper aware of being like one of only 2 Black people, and then the only Black person. And I was hyper aware of what that could mean. If I felt that I had failed, would that mean that I was failing for other people? Like, I felt like I was showing up and needing to represent in some shape or form, and nobody asked me to carry that. But I think it's like what's been mentioned already, like we do instinctively do that. And as you said, Chrystin, it's kind of like feeling like you have to excel, and knowing that you have to, and being told that you have to work twice as hard. Like, you automatically, well, I know that I did, carried that around for quite some time. And like for quite a really long time. And it wasn't until starting to have a lot of these conversations in the last couple of years that it was just like, yeah, I didn't realize how long I'd been carrying it around, and now I'm able to kind of talk to other people about it. And they're like, oh yeah, it's exactly the same for us as well. And I was like, whoo, okay. It's good, but it's nice to be able to talk about it.
Just a little bit, no, you're not alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You know, Peter, real quick, I want to say, to kind of speak on the, like, you know, thing about the white director and like how that has the way it has an effect that I've seen is it's kind of like backhanded. It's a little like insidious. You don't see it. And I don't even think that people intentionally do it, but it's like, well, if this guy can't figure it out, like, how can you figure it out? Like, how are you going to figure it out? So I think that's what it ends up being. I've seen it.
I totally get that it could be that. I'm kind of speaking as somebody who's been there, and I just like, is that true? Is that not true for anybody who wants to do it? You know, it's true. And I guess what I wonder is, and what I would say to anybody watching and listening is, it would be great if we could sort of look at ourselves and figure out, okay, how much of this is a perception and a weight that I'm carrying? How much of it is actually out there? Because we know a lot of it's actually out there, but I don't want us also to be burdened by the fear and the anxiety that, you know, has been passed down to us, you know, by whoever, by family, by other people, by, you know, by that perception that, you know, the whole, you have to work twice as hard, and, you know, you have to, again, it may be true, but the other reality is it is a high bar profession, you know, it is.
But there is a gap though. There's a gap.
There's a gap. There is a gap.
Which is like it just makes it more title with us. It's bigger.
Yeah, there's a gap because of historic racism. There's no way around that. There's no way around that. Where we are now, though, the moment we're in now, I kind of like, well, how much of this are, you know, I hope it's not a box some of us are putting ourselves in, and kind of, it's the anxiety that worries me. It's the pressure that people put on themselves, and the fear that a lot of people feel like they may be living in, that, you know, could be inhibiting creativity or making more positive moves, or, you know. So I just want people to look at it with very clear eyes and see what's real and what's not.
If I can piggyback on that, because I believe you're speaking to acknowledging and recognizing our own brilliance in the space, regardless of how difficult the space is. Simply because, I mean, both sides of it are true. Yeah, you know,
that's true.
It's like, I've had conversations with coworkers where I'm like, you came to set with a broke nose, you came to set drunk, you came to set hot. I can't do that, you know. But so there is a difference, but then there's also so much value added to who we are and what we are. And that's kind of where my next question is, because you've all done so many high profile projects that have influenced culture at the same time, have changed the collective scope of opportunity for artists, not only in the Black community, but also the BIPOC community and the you know, sort of artistic entertainment community at large. So when we're in the room living out our brilliance, wanted to ask, you know, we've started to notice the importance of specificity within diverse stories that explore characters' culture. Can you speak to this and what you've noticed?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Can I go first? I want to go first. I'm going to snatch this. So I'm a costume designer, and I come in, I don't even know how to answer this, but my biggest, I have so many answers in my head that I can't even get them out. But okay, I think when it comes to specificity, it's, as a costume designer and as an artist, as a character designer, whatever it is that you are, it is so important that you get your research right. It is so important that you know, ask for a consultant or 10, you know, it's so important that you spend those hours on research. Even if you're not drawing, you're still working, you're learning, you're going to teach your crew things that they never knew, you know, you're going to learn things that you never knew, and it will enhance your work so intensely. It's insane what really good in-depth research, and I mean like dissertation reading, I mean visiting museums, talking to the right people. I don't mean just looking at the first page of your Google research, you know. it really takes time to get things right, to get cultures right. It really takes time to look beyond, you know, colonialism and really see a culture for what it is, especially if you're, you know, creating a show or a character or a film or whatever that's hyper specific to something. You want to do right by that person or by that film or show. And so and people can tell. We can see if you're just going generic, and that's fine if you want to do that. I'm not side-eyeing you. But then you can also see when time has been given, you know. And I understand we don't have all the time in the world. Productions move fast, you know. Film, it goes by fast. You do what you can. And it's so important, and it really shines through, and it changes your film. It changes how people see your show, and it changes the perspective of it, and just yeah. But that's from a costume perspective, you know. That's from my perspective. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys noticed that within the specificity of the project that you're working on now, that it's getting more specific for the better, like in terms of things that are going to be coming out?
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Yeah. I definitely. I feel like it's actually really good because we're, you know, more aware. We are becoming more, you know, specific. We are actually. I mean, that helps with the, you know, diversity movement just in general, like with BIPOC, like, oh, you know what, like I am gonna hire, like now I'm specifically looking, I've got this Indian character, and I want to like represent this character, you know, properly. I'm looking for like East Indian designers, that sort of thing. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. And I have seen, like, we've done it on our show. We've had pulled some very specific people in, and it's great. I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's basically it's general respect, but also I think it's easy for us to take for granted how easily we are influenced by what it is that we see on the screen or what it is that we hear. So if we're constantly shown one facet of a person or a culture in one very particular way, and again, it's not correct or it's not researched properly, people will take that as a given and run with that and believe that that is the truth or that is how things are. So it's important for us as creatives in any form to, like, if we're putting stuff out there, and again, if it is something that is of a different culture, like that we are giving it the respect that it deserves, so people recognize that one culture or one group of people aren't just one thing, that it's multifaceted, that it's broader, and again, that just gives it the love and respect it deserves and the authenticity as well. And again, you're learning, as Brie said, like you learn a lot. So
yeah, I think it also goes so much further than having a character of color on screen, but a non-person of color voicing them, or an animal character of screen and a person of color voicing them and saying, Black representation, here it is. No, it's not, and I hate it. You know, so it's common sense, people. That's all it is.
Well, also from the business side of things, like just bringing on a person from that culture, they can add nuance and stuff that simply research cannot. We don't have all the time in the world. Having someone from that part of the world or from that culture just helps, makes everything easier.
Absolutely.
I know it's really minor, but like sometimes I can feel like watching a TV show if they've got like Black female characters, and I can tell if they've got like a Black female writer or just any Black people in the room, if the woman then has a headscarf when she goes to sleep. Like the first time I saw it, I think it was in How to Get Away with Murder, I was like, oh my god, they've done it right. Like, okay, they're missing something here. But like even nuances like that, like it always makes me feel really happy.
We've had to explain it several times, especially in animation, to try to say like, hey, how are we supposed to get this right? And we talk often, me and Allo talk often about just like two Black characters animated are walking by each other. What happens? And then they'll just like, well, maybe one of them gives a nice little wave, and it's like, no, it's not a wave. You know what I mean? Like it's like you failed. Yeah, like so it's those things, but like those cultural things happen in every single culture, even down to we were doing something that was African. And they said, girls sit differently here. And we were like, what do you mean? Like, even just the way they sit, like they sit down on their knees as opposed to, like, so it was like stuff like that. There's very small, subtle things that you can get wrong. And having someone there, whether you know it or not, does make a huge difference. Being that, I want to keep going. I want to say for us at 9B, we're big on restructuring the creative educational pipeline from the ground up. And one of the things that I wanted to find out is, what are some of the resources that you guys wish you had growing up as young Black artists that didn't exist then, that you feel that would have been helpful? especially for like now our young artists that are kind of coming up and maybe watching this panel and being inspired? What do you feel like you would have had?
The internet.
Exactly. I was like, I don't want to date myself.
I was gonna say, oh no.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta, you know, I'll be the old black dad, man. I'm like, yo, kids, I don't know how good you have it.
Yeah, it's true.
And just that and the idea that there are like, you know, people like all of you guys, people who have actually been there and established careers and who are currently doing it, you know, who are doing exactly what we're doing, you know, to have had, I mean, I've just got my fellow old black dad Marlon here, you know. You know how it is, man.
So I am going to piggyback. I'm going to lean hard in that, and I'm probably going to answer a question we're probably going to get to in a minute. But the fact that all of us are sitting here talking to one another, the fact that I hope some people that are high schoolers or can actually see some black people, women doing this thing, is, man, I don't know how full of myself I would have been if I knew like Floyd Norman was around when I was a kid. Like I was just I was looking at Ray Harryhausen and Willis O'Brien. You know, I was just like, I'm just a nerdy brother. But if I knew some of the sisters on this damn call knew existed, boy, I would be like,
yeah.
Representation.
Can't tell me nothing. Yeah.
Representation and going back and actually showing up for this younger generation. Actually, you know. Because
and not even just like, wow, people like me. Not even just that. I mean, you can go on and like see a video. This is how I break down a story scene, you know, as a Pixar story artist. And somebody's sitting there doing a whole video telling you how to do it.
Those interwebs, yes, again.
Like,
interwebs.
You know, I'd be
running. Information is out there
back then.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna age myself like y'all are. However, I will say going to an art university as well as an art high school, as I genuinely wish that what I'd learned came from Black artists. Like what we'd studied came from models of color, you know, instead of, you know, white models, or, you know, drawing the other. Or I wish that the art that we'd studied, the art masters that we'd studied, hadn't just been white artists. You know, there's so much more out there other than Leyendecker and Rockwell. You know, there's so much more, and I feel like that. I think as a person of color coming up in the arts industry is such a hindrance, because it cuts us off from so much more research and so much more inspiration that we could have naturally been tacked into from the start of our artistic career. And I think as a costume designer, I think what I still severely miss are costume and clothing books that don't just talk about the European or Eurocentric clothing throughout the ages. Fuck the Middle Ages. I know what they look like by now. My God. And yes, I love French history and French costume design throughout history. It's my favorite, but fuck it. Give me New Guinea, give me Haitian, give me more than just that, you know?
Yeah. And like to go on to that, I think like with me, it's like, it's not a matter, because I knew this stuff existed, but it was really hard to find where to find these things. And like a lot of these things, it's just a matter of like accessibility. Like, can I have access to these things, you know, because some, you know, there are things out there, but it's like, how can I know if I don't know where to look, you know? I mean, like, I'm like, I don't want to age myself either, but I think I'm like on younger end and stuff. It was really hard to convince my parents that I want to go like into animation when I didn't really have any like point of reference, like, oh look, Black people, like they were like, you're gonna be the only Black person there, like and like there weren't wrong to doubt that, but I think like the internet is like such a great place to finally start finding where to find these things. Like, where can you find like a Black character design, where you can find a Black director, like you can like search it up and be like, oh, you know. And I think like we should be able to have like, you know, more of a hub of like information, like, oh, you find this specific website to find all these information, like you can find this directly for looking for different artists, you know. I think like putting more effort on our parts to make things as accessible to people, especially Black artists, would be so important.
Yeah, well, that leads me to the next question, just in terms of consistency, because, change is not often captured in one moment, but rather through multiple moments of consistency. So what are some of the practices that you all see that should be maintained consistently in order to, continue the forward momentum we've gained, and as well as break open the precipice of opportunities, that we're on the verge of seeing right now? We see some changes, some motivations happening, but for it to really be fermented, implemented, I think that normalcy is the goal of these things. So what are some habits that you think we can continue to push into, but not even just us, other habits from the big corporations, the executives that don't look like us, that think they are helping, that want to jump in, but, they think they're doing good, but it's like, let me just pedicure your efforts a little bit to push you over here. What are some of those things?
I just
promote Black talent.
Wait, what?
Promote Black talent. Like,
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the easy way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I would actually go one further than you all this, where it's not even normalcy, it's ubiquity, right? Like, you just don't even, it's like so part of the landscape that it's just like water or like air. Like, it's not a big deal.
So you felt like bringing out the big words today?
Oh, what I'm saying. I've been waiting to use that one.
SAT
That on my calendar.
Okay.
I saw that on my daily calendar. I'm like, ubiquitous. I got to use that one.
Word of the day. Ubiquitous. Can I have it in a sentence, please?
I feel empowered.
No, but I feel you. I absolutely feel it. Sure, man.
But on that subject, I think Kristin's exactly right. It's like, I think there's a certain amount of like, I always like, to use like kind of rock and roll like analogies when it comes to like talent. And you remember when like managers would actually go to shows and they would actually like go to see who's playing, to actually see what the talent is. I feel like that has to happen like on the executive level, where they're like actually paying attention to who's making what, and actively being like, okay, you know what? I'm seeing all like a lot of the Black talent coming up right now, and I'm actively giving them an opportunity, whether that's a short or whether that's like, hey, you know what? We're looking for more directors for our shows. You got to be active, and like just keeping on that, like, with that focus, I think it's going to change a lot.
Yeah, I think just in general, like, not only promoting Black talent, make sure you're engaging Black talent, have conversations with older generations, have conversations with like your generation, like, and younger, because I think like and sometimes it can be kind of hard, but like as you move and stuff, like some people do develop tunnel vision when they only focus on themselves, but it's like that it's a matter of like, how can you uplift the whole community and stuff? Like, how can you like make it easier for someone else to get an industry? I don't think that it's fair to be like, well, if I had a hard time, you should have a hard time, I think that the matter of making things more, like, again, I keep on saying accessible. It's like, it's such an important thing to make things not as hard as it is for us. Even like, I feel like because of like my past generation of Black artists, like it has been easier on me, but there's still things that are hard, So it's like, it's my responsibility to be like a resource to other Black artists, be like, if you need help, like, let me know. If you need to figure out rates, if you feel like you're being treated unfair, like, let me know so I can help you, give you guidance, as opposed to letting you just figure it out on your own. Because I think that's one thing that could really hurt us in the end if we neglect the younger generation. Like, we may not agree with perspectively and stuff, may not understand, but it's like important to give that guidance to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch and expand on that, like moving back slightly in it and picking up on something that Abel said earlier as well, like I think companies need to be continuously also investing in education in some shape or form as well, because starting with parents as well, like parents need to know, especially parents for kids of color, especially like my Nigerian parents, like would have needed to know that this was a space that I could step into, that there were other people that looked like me that were going to be in this space, and that it was somewhere that I could thrive, and that I wouldn't just be like an artist, like, I don't know, graffitiing, not that graffitiing is like bad, but you know what I mean, that this is something that could make you money in some shape or form. So I think they also need to be continuing to educate people, like educate younger students and educate parents as well at the same time, and engaging with them as much as possible, and funding in some places as well, because we know that there are going to be certain communities that cannot afford to be able to go to college or university, afford all the equipment that comes with that, afford all of the software that comes with that. So they need to be actively like really putting their money where their mouth is as well. Like that's what it comes down to. If they really want to see more diverse talent within these spaces, they need to be spending money in areas of education as well as just kind of, oh, we've donated to this. Like spend money, set up academies if you need to, but give people the resources that they need and make sure that they are kind of engaged and educated in whatever way is needed.
You keep saying the word engage, and I just have to use it before I genuinely think that it is so imperative that directors, and I'm calling y'all directors out here, I see all of y'all, that y'all have to engage with your crew. Like it is so important, especially if you have a crew that is so diverse, whether you've got queer people, whether you've got people of color, whether you've got non-people of color, like even their stories matter, you know, and it's all about that lived experience. And if you've got, you know, a scene or some characters that are very diverse or what have you, it is so important to brainstorm with your crew and just listen to them and hear what they have to say, listen to their lived experiences, listen to where they grew up. You know, I'm from the Bronx. I'm so happy to help out anyone who needs references, you know, from the hood or wherever, you know. And so it's I think in a way it's like consulting but with your team, but on a deeper level, and just allowing them to be heard in such a way that is so unlike what happens on other teams, you know. And so it's having that connection with your team, especially if they're a very, very diverse team, and listening to them and listening when they say, don't do that, that doesn't feel right, I promise you not a single Black person is gonna like that, you know. So it's really being able to listen and not have a barrier between you guys. I think that's so important. Yeah.
What I'm going to do right now is I want to actually engage and listen to our audience because they have some questions. But first, I have to say, if you guys look into, there we go, the chat is lit, and I have to draw this out because we're recording. So the chat's great. I think it was Heather. Heather has now, through the course of our panel, coined this Lightbox Expo.
Yes! Yes!
We have to continue this forward. I think it happened right now.
Yes,
There's a
yes.
hashtag Lightbox Expo.
Lightbox
Expo. For you, y'all. Lightbox Expo. Here.
I got a question from Omar that says, I would love to know what inspired all of you to tell Black stories through your amazing art. What motivates you as an artist? I'm going to throw this to someone. DJ, go.
Yeah. It's so weird because like the whole point of me starting this journey when I was younger to tell stories of my own stories, I think it comes from not a place of being just a Black artist, but like from a lot of storytellers, you have something inside of you that you sometimes you look back at your stories and like, oh, well, you're psychologically analyzing yourself, but like also you clearly have something to say, and making sure that the character's motivations and the overall arcing story has a point and a reason to be told, I think is the thing that motivated myself into kind of moving in that direction and trying to tell stories. In fact, that's why I'm working so hard on my own projects, is so I can tell my own stories, because I've pitched and talked to a bunch of studios before a lot of these changes have been made. And I think that there's so much opportunity right now to just kind of do your own thing. You have the technology, there's plenty of people who are willing to work and be hired. You can just make stuff and put it on YouTube where it's free and build a large audience. And I almost wish I focused on that from the get-go instead of getting all these credits, though I learned a lot and made a lot of connections and that kind of stuff helped me. More the amount of money I made and like the investments in learning how to do those things, I would say is the things I pulled away from that to make my own stories.
I remember that feeling going to college, and I finally got there and I was super excited. I was like, I'm going to draw. And they were like, you've got math and political science. And I was like, again? I was so mad. I remember being so mad. Like, I was like, I just got through this.
How do I get out of math class? What can I take instead?
So I think we have another question from Mariah. Mariah.
Right.
She says, what are some classes I can take online for character design to work at places like Brie? She's so cool.
Thank you. Wait.
Brie, you want to take that one?
I could take
like
that.
Classes online.
Classes online.
It's lit.
Some classes you can take a lot. I mean, highly recommend any classes over at CGMA, Brainstorm. You've got some amazing people over there, some friends, some people in close circles, just outstanding talent that works in the industry as is. Or from time to time you'll find people like me. I mean, I don't do it anymore, but you'll find people who have pop-up mentorships. I used to do mentorships that would go for several months at a time for free, just because I can, because I had the time and because I wanted to help people. And so it's, a pop-up mentorship, Mariah, is just like, I don't know, someone who's just like, I'm bored, I want to mentor people, and we do. And
Kristin
it's
too.
Yeah,
Kristin, you can take class from Kristin very soon, like right now, right?
Right now.
at schoolism.
Yeah. My class isn't just focused on character design. It covers the whole gambit. So we go all the way from concepts to like finished backgrounds. I talk about color styling, talk about props. So it's really like a crash course if you're just wanting to get your feet wet and see what you do like, and then you could go into something more specific later. That's a really great opportunity. And also to piggyback off of Brie, like Brainstorm is really great, CDA. And there are a ton of tutorials online as well, just like on YouTube. Schoolism tutorials free, So
it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. It really doesn't. It can be free. Your education can be free. You can take your education into your own hands, but you if you're gonna do that, you really have to have the dedication. You have to know how to set up standards for yourself. You have to know how to set up, your own pacing, but also give yourself homework, and be open to, I hate the word compare, but comparing yourself to artists that you genuinely admire, see where they're at, and then really work on getting there and then getting beyond that. Because the work that you see in the artist portfolio that you love so much, that's the work that got them hired, and that's the work that got them to make the movies that you love. So get yourself to that level however way you can. And I mean, it's not smooth sailing, but it's a start.
I'm starting
I'd say there's a pitfall right now happening in the art community, which is there's never been more reference, and like the ability to get jobs has never been easier just by posting your stuff online. But I have noticed there's a lot of stuff that's starting to look very similar to each other.
Yes.
Because of posting your stuff online.
Yes.
And you happen to do something original and it's completely different. Maybe it's not even your best work, but could lead in a very good direction for an original style. But instead, you post something else that looks something similar to maybe one of your favorite artists that gets 4 or 5 times more likes, making you kind of head more in that direction.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to post your practices. Don't be afraid to post things that look different, that may not do as well. Just take chances, because those actually might lead you to the jobs, especially as like AI and computers continue to get better. I think if you're not working on original stories or like new concepts, art direction is going to be like moving sliders on a thing to find your style.
Yes.
100%.
So it's never been easier to get good fast, but also make sure you're going out there and learning storytelling and other things besides just getting good at art, which is, 100%. I know already a lot to say, because art is
Let's jump on real quick.
Let's do it.
Not to belabor the point, but when I'm looking at artists, when we're looking, I'm sure Marlon and Everett, you guys can attest. That's where we're looking for someone who can tell a story through design. We're looking for somebody who has a unique, who brings like a personal sense of storytelling to the images that they're making.
Yeah,
absolutely. More important than absolute polish. If we get a sense that somebody's really digging in from a story point of view on their visual development pieces, that's the person we want.
It's all about your voice, your voice
exactly.
as an artist.
Yeah.
But I think what's really important is, okay, you've got really popular shows out like Steven Universe or whatever else on cartoon, OKKO and stuff at Disney. And, you know, young and up and coming artists want to roll like that because it's the stuff that's been so successful. It's going to be hard for you to get work, in my opinion, because that if those people want that style, they'll just rehire those people who can who made that style.
They always look an upcoming movie to look like a movie 20 years ago.
Right.
Hey,
What am I gonna do with that? I don't want that. Work in a style that is uniquely you, but don't be afraid to take inspiration from, you know, Chrystin, you know. But it's still, you know, uniquely me because it's got my voice, it's got my storytelling, it's got my point of view. Chrystin stuff has her voice, her storytelling. I can steal as much as I want, but I can't do it. Chrystin does.
I want to just focus on over at. I was just saying something we focus on at 9B in terms of looking at artists who we want to recruit, and it's specifically, can we see your DNA, your natural DNA in your work, right? Because that is sort of the nucleus of innovation, really. You know, who has all these different things we can pull together to create something new? It's not about being recitative and just repeating what's already out there. But the trap that some artists fall into is, and I know when I was like training, painting and sketching was, dang, this doesn't look like that. So, you know, and it's like understanding the fundamentals, but also understanding that what you're doing, your job is to create a new aesthetic for certain things. Your eye is the biggest superpower that you have. So be confident in your style, strengthen your work, but continue to push through with what it is you're doing, and be unwavering about your confidence and your belief in yourself. We have another question up here. Says, to Phil, actually. Phil, we know that you have been very inspired by Aldous Hodge for many years, and he has taught you everything.
I knew it.
So would you mind telling us how impressed you are with him?
Sure.
I hate this.
So answer the question.
The ashiness of his overall body inspired me to moisturize my skin.
Show your elbows.
You know,
show
to
y'all's
moisturize.
elbows.
You know,
show y'all's elbows.
I knew it. I knew
Be honest.
Come
on.
I'm prepared. Oh my god.
Oh my lord.
Here's something that I will draw to really quick, because I did want to touch on this, and you've got perfect examples of it. I feel like for just in terms of the online, when you guys are talking about training, right? I've learned actually for myself more how to use Procreate from just being on Instagram and scrolling and watching artists use Procreate. I'm like, oh, I didn't know it did that. And then I go and I try. So there's all of that mixed in with the fact when we were talking about finding your own voice, right? All you need to do to understand that thing is to look at the art book from Spider-Verse. Look at how varied all the artwork is, and look at how it all funneled into one place. Everyone drew like themselves, but the thought process is in their drawing. So that's something that we look at when we're looking at portfolios. I don't want to see the highly polished stuff so much as I want to look at the character and be like, hey, you put this like jacket on them, and then your thought process was that jacket was given to them by their grandfather because of this, and it was special to tell the story. That's what I want to see. So it's like, it's less about that. So how you draw that and how you communicate that to me, just be yourself. I think that's kind of something that you guys should know.
Also allows you to just flex your imagination, and that's just such a beautiful thing. Like as we get older, it just gets dampened through like living and life and adulting, and you kind of you're pulled more away from that inner child, and like so just using your voice in that way just allow like the ideas that come through are just like amazing. So just let them fly, let them roam before like your voice starts going, no but this, no but that.
It is hard though. I will say, like from personal, like from my own stance, I worked on Spider-Verse too, and I was hired as a costume designer, and I was surrounded by such amazing talent that had been in the industry far longer than I had, and they were just such beautiful people and beautiful souls, and like I got hired, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like I draw like me. But like Phil, you know, loved my work, and that's what got me on. And it took a bit, but then I realized like, oh shit, I am here because of the way that I work and because of the way that I think and the way that I talk about my designs and the way that I research and things like that. And yes, you're completely right, Phil. Like everybody drew so differently. Even on Spider-Verse 2, we like Chris, myself, everybody, such Jesus, vastly different styles. And that's what makes it work, I think, because we have so many different voices and yet we learn from each other. And it's such a small team anyway, when you learn from each other and you work together in that just most symbiotic way. It's just wonderful. Wonderful.
Now, I do have an actual real question here from an anonymous attendee. It says, would you guys say it's significantly harder to get into the industry without a degree in animation as a Black person?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Is
Yeah,
that
was it? I don't know.
Well,
Back in the day?
actually,
Yeah.
it's a
Oh, we got different answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
All right.
depends on like.
Bust out a fight.
I won't say absolutely it's not important because it depends. Like, I think, let's say you're a Black American, yeah, you don't, it kind of depends, you don't really, but if you're coming from like Africa, just international, you need a degree. And like, I feel like a lot of people really do, I know I feel like I did take that a bit granted because it's like, it is a bit harder to get in the industry if you are coming from an international place. Like my parents are Ghanaian, like it did take a long time for the process and stuff. And like, I have known African artists have like, it's a, like being an international artist is hard. Being a Black international artist is African Black international artist is a lot harder and stuff. So you do need a degree if you want to work in the American animation industry and stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
I think in the past, having a degree, I got into the industry while I was going to school, but it definitely helped move me into leadership quicker. I think when degrees mattered a little more. I think nowadays it's more about the work and the skill. And I think because there's so many jobs ramping up right now, it's very easy to find a place looking for that job happening right now.
And I think it depends on what you kind of want to go to. For me, like I got a degree. Well, I was working in music and social media before I moved into visual effects. And so when I actively chose to go and get like a master's degree in visual effects, so I could learn, like I literally learned everything I needed to kind of know within that year. I learned about the pipeline, like I touched my first like 3D modeling software and all that kind of stuff. Like I learned about the pipeline within a year. That's what I felt that I needed to do based off of how I know that I learn best. And then afterwards, I kind of then started at like as a runner and then worked my way up into assistant role and then into a concept artist role. So that I think it depends on what you want to do and how you go about it and where you're starting maybe. But whereas there are some artists that I'd worked with in my department who hadn't gone to college, who hadn't gone to university, like they were literally coming straight out of school. Like one of my friends, he kind of had just like spent the year after he'd finished high school, just kind of learning this stuff and then was hired off the bat, like as a freelancer. And again, he's worked straight for himself and he was very kind of dedicated in kind of saying, okay, well, in this year, this is what I'm going to teach myself. So I think as well, there needs to be dedication from your side as well. If you're not going to kind of take the educational kind of college route, then you're still going to be educating yourself there. You're still going to be upskilling yourself. Like at the end of the day, you're still going to be learning and educating yourself. It's up to you whether or not you do that within an institution or not.
Absolutely.
I think you have to have the work.
Yes.
Yeah,
your work will always speak for itself.
Yeah. On your own. Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, I was just going to say, and you have to be willing to like do work that's not maybe the most glamorous work to begin.
Yeah,
right.
You have to go to the woodshed and get the experience in and not be shocked that, oh, what, I'm not Pixar didn't hire me right away, what,
Right.
You're gonna work your way up and you're gonna learn your craft.
Yeah,
I think it's also an effort in being humble and recognizing that you may not yet be where you need to be in order to start getting the high profile or even low profile work that you want. I'm a part of a lot of different groups and servers and things, and I always see young artists or older artists or whatever, people who want to get into the industry, and their work just isn't there yet. Fundamentally, they're missing a lot of things fundamentally. and they don't know that, and they probably don't even want to know that. I think they just want to. I mean, artists don't want to get in. I deserve to get in. I'm a Black person. I deserve to get in. It doesn't work that way, you know. Like you still have to be good. You still have to be very good, you know. You still have to have a little bit of luck on your side, a whole shit ton of passion. You know, you got to cry a lot. You know, you got to know a lot of people, or even a little bit of people, you know, whatever. But it's like, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough one, and it makes my shoulders itchy. Yeah.
It is. You do have to be good. It is simple. It's not easy, which is why they're two words.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you do have to be good. And let's go back to something that Brie said. Look at the work that people are getting hired with. That's your competition. That's the people who you admire. You know, I'm always sending people to like, look at so-and-so's reel on YouTube. You know, there's a college reel on 2D animation reel on, look, you know, go check out if you're going to be going into the trainee program at Disney or Pixar or DreamWorks or Netflix. Look at the portfolios that they got there of the people who they've hired, and be able to judge if your stuff looks that good.
Yeah.
You know?
And I also want to point to, like, I think once people who do go to school, I want you to remember, like, just because you have a degree, you're not obligated for a job. Like you're not better. Like I've seen people come out of school being like, oh, I have a degree, where's my job?
Right.
Yeah, where's your work? Like,
where's your work?
When cons start up again, guys, that's a great place to like meet people, network, have a table, show off your stuff. That's a great way to get jobs. Posting online right now, there's a lot of opportunities out there to get your work seen. And if you are good enough, that increases your chances exponentially on getting that job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask questions either. Like, show up confidently, ask questions, even if you think, oh, this is a silly question. No question is silly. Like somebody else probably wanted to ask it, felt too shy to as well. Just don't be afraid to ask questions when you're networking.
Exactly.
Now
and you never know where that person will take you. Sorry.
Oh, no, do that. I just wanted to sort of piggyback from that. Once you actually do have your position, the next question is about cross-pollination. It says, do you feel that it would be more difficult for artists with a games background to transition into animation? It says a previous instructor told me that doing so would make me look flaky and unprofessional.
What?
I can speak.
Austin, lie to your fucking instructor. Wow.
So that was a lies. Let's be honest. Like that was a thing.
Okay. It
was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've worked in games, mobile games, even the difference between AAA and normal mobile games. There was a wall there.
Yeah.
Between movies or feature and TV animation.
Yeah.
I even worked in like tech. I've worked at Instagram and also Twitter. Like nowadays, if you have the skill that they're looking for, they're interested.
Right. Like, look at us. Gosh, we've got an actor, we've got a live action costume designer. You know, this is beautiful. This literally goes against everything your teacher was
correction, I'm not an actor, I am a PowerPoint professional.
That's right. You know, my mother loves you. My mother loves your acting, and I'm gonna tell her, Ma, stop watching this stuff.
You gonna turn moms against me?
Oh, we were cool.
It was cool, like, you know, New York Connect, like, nah.
Those distinctions, I mean, they always come from people who really don't know, and generally, to my awareness, don't do a lot of the actual like hiring or choosing of artists. It's always these kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's people in recruiting, or maybe it's middle management people who aren't really making the real decisions on who they want. Because, you know, I've never seen anybody not get hired because they were in gaming, you know, if they could meet the demands of what working in animation versus gaming means, if they get the distinction, you know, if they can do the work, then hey, come on in, you know, that really is all that matters. Not a degree, not what you did before. Are they showing that they can do it and they bring something to the table? Okay, come on in.
Right. Sometimes it's just about retooling your portfolio to fit the field that you want to go into. Like I jumped from several different careers over my lifetime. Like,
don't age yourself. Stop that.
I like the age I am in. I don't know. But yeah, like as long as the skills are there, you'll find that you can actually pivot to multiple different careers and fields. And I honestly think that's wonderful because this is a gig-based economy. Once the show is done, once the project is over, you're going to have to find something else. And sometimes if the timing isn't right, having those extra tools in your pocket is a boon. So yeah, I don't know about your professor.
Yeah. I definitely want to amplify that that note about being able to retool your portfolio. I do a lot of mentoring and talking to folks, and when I say, yeah, you may need to pivot your portfolio to do more, props if that's what you want to do. You know, oh, I need another portfolio. I'm like, yeah, if you're trying to apply different places for different things, you need to be able. If you want to do boards, you think you can do boards and props, you think you can do character design and effects, then you need to have the 2 different reels. You don't want to give me like one example of each of those.
Right. It's like submitting a covering letter with like one company's name on it and just changing it out. Like you need to, it needs to be
all right, but
retailed
I've done that before. Why are you calling me out?
You know what I mean? Like it needs to be retailored so it fits the role. Essentially, you can't say, I want to be a character designer, but then submit a portfolio full of environments. It's like, okay, cool, but we're looking for a character designer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people also really need to recognize it is hard. It is exceedingly hard to be able to do that. Like exactly what Marlon just said. If you want to be a character designer and a prop designer, if you want to be a storyboard artist, fine, by all means, do all those things. But you need to understand you are going into an intense learning environment. All 3 of those careers are extremely intensive and hard to learn and take a lot of time to learn. I understand, you've got passion for storytelling, you love storyboarding, then you love character design. Character design is the hardest position to get.
So hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's the hardest.
The thing about it too is like, not to sound like a mobster or something, but people have given their life to this thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like if you go in and you've wearing 3 hats and you like, and somebody's like, all I've ever done is boarding. All I've ever done is effects. All I've ever done is character design. And you like posing at 3 of them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I do say to that? Learn something that's analogous to what you're already really good at. That is so important. Like if you're a character designer, learn costume design, learn color styling. If you're a storyboard artist, learn how to write, learn how to do beat paintings. If you are a background designer, learn background painting, learn color styling. There will always be an analogous position to what you are already really good at. And it just makes things so much easier when you do it that way.
Basically master one of them. Master one. And once you master that, you'll see how hard it is to master the next.
And make it about what you want to do too.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have so many people like ask me when I decide on something based on pay, and I'm like, all this shit is hard.
Yeah, it is.
So like,
it's hard.
It's hard.
If you want to do something 10 hours a day for 6 days a week, make it something you really like. And you
exactly. Especially if you're going to be doing hundreds of iterations, it better be something.
Nobody talks about the iterations.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, unfortunately, we couldn't get to all the questions, but I think it is a great note to end on. Definitely want to say just thank you to all of our brilliant panelists. Thank you so much to everybody who joined. Thank you for your questions, for your interest. For people who are trying to get more guidance, trying to get in touch, trying to just see what we're up to, look, hit us up, 9B Collective. You can check our IG or our website. We are open, and we do definitely prioritize trying to educate people, help people grow and learn. So we are available for that. But just any closing thoughts, closing. I don't know that before I skip out. Just saying.
Go create stuff, guys. Just go create stuff.
Yeah, go make stuff.
And don't be afraid to fail. Like that's how you learn. Those are like important moments. So allow yourself to fail and learn.
I say fail fast. Fail fast. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. Find me on LinkedIn. Find me wherever you want to find me. Ask me. I love doing one-on-one video chats with people. Like, please reach out. I love it.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me. See everybody.
Panelists,
For the
usual.
rest of the
We're
Lightbox
amazing.
Expo.
All
Sorry,
right,
the
great
Black
job,
Box.
everyone.
Great job.
Best panel. We're always the best panel every year.
This is a lot of
Black Box
fun. Thank you,
2021.
guys.
Never
Black Box
Black
2021.
Black Box. This is Black Box.
Black Box
Talking
Expo.
about.
I think you got something.
I love it.
All right.
All right, y'all.
All right,
Bye, guys.
Everybody.
Good to see y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.